The starship Nebula Seeker glided through the inky blackness of space, its hull gleaming under the light of distant stars. Inside the ship's main laboratory, Dr. Aisha Khan hunched over her workstation, her dark eyes fixed on the holographic display before her. The 32-year-old xenobiologist brushed a strand of her jet-black hair away from her face, too engrossed in her work to notice the breathtaking view of the galaxy outside the viewport. "Computer, run the analysis again," Aisha commanded, her voice tinged with excitement and a hint of frustration. She had been studying the data from planet XJ12 for weeks now, and something didn't add up. The planet's ecosystem was unlike anything she had ever seen before. As the computer processed her request, Aisha leaned back in her chair and stretched. Her mind wandered to the events that had brought her here, to the edge of known space. She had always been fascinated by alien life forms, but it was her groundbreaking work on the symbiotic relationships between different species that had earned her this prestigious assignment. The Galactic Science Council had handpicked her to lead the exploration of this uncharted sector. The computer chimed, pulling Aisha from her thoughts. "Analysis complete, Dr. Khan," the AI's smooth voice announced. "Anomaly detected in Sector 7 of the planet's northern hemisphere." Aisha's heart raced as she pored over the new data. "This can't be right," she muttered to herself. The readings suggested the presence of a creature with a biochemistry so advanced it bordered on the impossible. If these results were accurate, they had just stumbled upon the most significant discovery in the history of xenobiology. Without hesitation, Aisha contacted the ship's captain. "Captain Rodriguez, we need to land on XJ12 immediately. I found something extraordinary." Within hours, the Nebula Seeker was breaking through the planet's atmosphere. Aisha stood at the ready in her exosuit, her heart pounding with anticipation. As the ship touched down on the alien world, she took a deep breath, steeling herself for what lay ahead. The moment the airlock opened, Aisha was hit by the alien world's atmosphere. Even through her suit's filters, she could smell the strange, metallic tang in the air. The landscape before her was a riot of colors. Purple vegetation stretched as far as the eye could see, punctuated by towering structures that looked like a cross between coral reefs and crystal formations. "Remember, team," Aisha addressed the small group of researchers accompanying her, "we're here to observe and collect data. Do not engage with any life forms unless absolutely necessary." As they ventured deeper into the alien forest, Aisha's sensors began picking up unusual readings. Something big was moving nearby, something that didn't match any of the life forms they had detected from orbit. Suddenly, the ground beneath their feet began to tremble. The team froze in their tracks as a massive shape emerged from the undergrowth. Aisha's jaw dropped as she laid eyes on the creature. It was enormous, easily the size of a small shuttle. Its body was covered in iridescent scales that shifted colors like oil on water. Multiple limbs, Aisha counted at least 8, ended in wickedly sharp claws. But it was the creature's eyes that truly captivated her. They were huge, complex organs that seemed to glow with an inner intelligence. "It's beautiful," Aisha whispered, momentarily forgetting the potential danger they were in. As if hearing her words, the creature turned its gaze directly on Aisha. In that moment, she felt a connection, a spark of understanding that defied explanation. This wasn't just an animal acting on instinct. There was a mind behind those eyes, one that was sizing her up just as she was studying it. The spell was broken by a panicked shout from one of her team members. "Dr. Khan, we need to leave now. That thing is going to kill us all." But Aisha stood her ground, raising a hand to calm her team. "No," she said firmly, her eyes never leaving the creature's. "It's not here to harm us. It's curious." As if to prove her point, the creature lowered its massive head, bringing one of its eyes level with Aisha. She could see her own reflection in its pupil, distorted but unmistakable. In that moment, Dr. Aisha Khan knew that everything she thought she knew about alien life had just been turned on its head. This creature, this magnificent being that the rest of the galaxy would soon fear as its deadliest predator, was the key to understanding the universe in ways she had never imagined possible. As she stood there, face to face with the most incredible discovery of her career, Aisha couldn't help but smile. Her journey, she realized, was only just beginning. The tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a knife. Dr. Aisha Khan stood motionless, her eyes locked with those of the massive alien creature before her. Behind her, her team waited with bated breath, unsure whether to flee or stay put. Dr. Khan, Captain Rodriguez's voice crackled through her comlink. We're picking up some strange energy readings from your location. What's going on down there? Aisha took a deep breath before responding, her voice barely above a whisper. Captain, we've made contact with an unknown species. It's incredible, unlike anything we've ever encountered. As if understanding her words, the creature tilted its head, the iridescent scales on its neck shimmering in the alien sunlight. Aisha felt a strong urge to reach out and touch it, but she knew better than to make any sudden moves. Suddenly, the ground beneath them began to shake violently. The peaceful moment shattered as the team was thrown off balance. Aisha stumbled, her foot catching on a root-like structure. As she fell, she saw the alien creature rear back, its massive form blocking out the sky. "Look out!" one of her teammates shouted. Aisha braced for impact, expecting to feel the creature's claws tearing into her. Instead, she felt something wrap around her waist, yanking her out of the way just as a massive boulder crashed down where she had been standing moments before. Dazed, Aisha looked up to see that the alien had used one of its limbs to pull her to safety. Its enormous eye blinked at her, and she could have sworn she saw concern in its gaze. "Thank you," she breathed, still trying to process what had just happened. The ground continued to shake, and Aisha realized with growing horror that they were in the middle of a severe earthquake. Fissures began to open up in the earth, swallowing up the strange purple vegetation. "We need to get out of here," shouted Dr. Yuki Tanaka, Aisha's second-in-command. "The shuttle won't be able to land in these conditions." Aisha knew Yuki was right, but as she looked around, she saw that their path back to the landing site was now blocked by a gaping chasm. They were trapped. The alien creature let out a low, rumbling sound that Aisha felt in her bones. To her amazement, it lowered its body to the ground, using its multiple limbs to create a stable platform. It wants us to climb on," Aisha realized aloud. "Are you insane?" Yuki exclaimed. "We can't trust that thing." But Aisha had already made up her mind. "It's our only chance," she said firmly. "Everyone, get on." With no other options, the team reluctantly followed Aisha's lead. They clambered onto the creature's back, gripping its scales tightly as it rose to its full height. What followed was the most exhilarating and terrifying ride of Aisha's life. The alien moved with impossible grace and speed, leaping over chasms and dodging falling debris. Its body seemed to anticipate each tremor, adjusting its stance to keep its passengers safe. As they raced through the crumbling landscape, Aisha's scientific mind kicked into overdrive. She noticed how the creature's scales changed color to match their surroundings, providing camouflage. Its multiple eyes seemed capable of seeing in every direction at once. Every movement, every decision it made spoke of a high level of intelligence. Finally, they reached a plateau high above the chaos below. The alien gently lowered itself, allowing the shaken but unharmed team to disembark. "That was amazing," Aisha said, patting the creature's side. She could have sworn she felt a vibration, almost like a purr, in response. Captain Rodriguez's voice came through again, filled with relief. "Dr. Khan, we've got a lock on your position. Preparing for emergency extraction." As the sound of the approaching shuttle filled the air, Aisha turned to the alien. "I don't know if you can understand me," she said softly, "but thank you. You saved our lives." The creature blinked its massive eyes and made a series of clicks and whistles. Though she couldn't understand the sounds, Aisha felt a sense of acknowledgement, perhaps even farewell. As the shuttle touched down, Aisha made a split-second decision. She reached into her pack and pulled out her personal data pad. Quickly, she typed out a message and held it up for the creature to see. "I'll come back. I promise." The alien's eyes seemed to focus on the pad, and Aisha could have sworn she saw a flicker of understanding. As she boarded the shuttle, she kept her eyes on the magnificent being that had saved them. Settling into her seat, Aisha's mind raced with the implications of what had just happened. She had not only discovered a new species but had also formed what seemed to be the beginnings of a bond with it. As the shuttle took off, leaving the turbulent planet behind, Aisha knew that her life, and potentially the entire galaxy, would never be the same. The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Dr. Aisha Khan, the brilliant xenobiologist from Earth, had not only discovered a new species, but had also formed an unprecedented bond with what was quickly being called the most dangerous predator in known space. Aisha sat in her quarters aboard the Nebula Seeker, watching the holographic news reports with a mixture of fascination and dread. Her face was plastered across every channel, alongside grainy footage of the alien creature she had come to think of as her friend. "The galaxy is in an uproar," Captain Rodriguez said, entering Aisha's room. "Some are calling for your head. Others are hailing you as a visionary." Aisha sighed, running a hand through her hair. "And what do you think, Captain?" Rodriguez's face softened. "I think you're the bravest damn scientist I've ever met, but I'm worried about what comes next." As if on cue, Aisha's communicator buzzed. It was a message from the Galactic Science Council. Her heart sank as she read it. "They want to quarantine the planet," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "They're sending a fleet to ensure nothing gets on or off XJ-12. Rodriguez cursed under his breath. "That's not all, is it?" Aisha shook her head. "They want us to return immediately. They're talking about weaponizing the creature's DNA. The thought made Aisha's stomach churn. She couldn't let that happen. Not to the being that had saved her life, that had shown such intelligence and compassion. "We have to go back," Aisha said suddenly, standing up. "We have to warn them." Rodriguez looked at her like she had grown a second head. "Are you out of your mind? That's suicide." But Aisha was already moving, grabbing her research equipment. "I made a promise, Captain. I intend to keep it." Despite Rodriguez's protests, Aisha managed to convince a small team to join her. As they prepared a shuttle for the journey back to XJ-12, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. Multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace. The ship's AI announced, "Galactic Peacekeeping Force detected." Aisha's heart raced. They were out of time. "Launch now," she ordered, strapping herself into the shuttle. The small craft shot out of the Nebula Seeker's hangar bay, narrowly avoiding the tractor beams of the Orion ships. As they plummeted towards XJ-12's surface, Aisha could see massive energy shields beginning to form around the planet. "We're not going to make it," yelled Dr. Tanaka from the co-pilot's seat. Just then, Aisha's console lit up with an incoming transmission. To everyone's shock, it was a series of clicks and whistles, the same sounds the alien creature had made. "It's them," Aisha exclaimed. They're guiding us." Following the aliens' instructions, they managed to slip through a gap in the forming shields, their shuttle screaming through the atmosphere. As they neared the surface, Aisha saw a sight that took her breath away. Hundreds of the alien creatures had gathered, their iridescent scales creating a dazzling light show visible from space. A shuttle touched down in the midst of the gathering. As Aisha stepped out, she found herself face to face with the creature she had met before. Its large eyes blinked at her, and she felt a wave of relief wash over her. "I came back," she said softly, "just like I promised." The creature made a series of sounds, and to Aisha's amazement, she began to understand. Not words, exactly, but feelings, images, ideas. The aliens were communicating telepathically, and somehow they had found a way to include her in their network. Through this connection, Aisha learned the truth. These creatures weren't just intelligent. They were the last survivors of an ancient, highly advanced civilization. They had chosen isolation to protect themselves and the galaxy from those who would misuse their knowledge. But now, faced with the threat of quarantine and exploitation, they had decided to reach out, and they had chosen Aisha as their ambassador. As the reality of the situation sank in, Aisha heard the sound of ships entering the atmosphere. The galactic peacekeeping force had broken through. The lead alien, the one Aisha had first met, turned its gaze to the sky. Then it looked back at Aisha, a decision clearly made. In that moment, Aisha understood what she had to do. She was no longer just a scientist. She was the bridge between two worlds, the key to preventing a catastrophic conflict. As the peacekeeping ships descended, Aisha stepped forward, standing tall beside her alien friend. Whatever came next, they would face it together. The fate of not just one species, but the entire galaxy, now rested on the unlikely bond between a human scientist and the cosmos' deadliest predator. The tension in the air was thick as the galactic peacekeeping force ships landed. Aisha stood her ground, flanked by her alien friend and hundreds of its kind. She took a deep breath, ready to face whatever came next. To everyone's surprise, it was Captain Rodriguez who stepped out of the lead ship. His face was a mix of relief and worry as he approached Aisha. "Dr. Khan," he said, "you have no idea how much trouble you're in." Before Aisha could respond, her alien companion made a series of clicks and whistles. Suddenly, a shimmering field of energy enveloped them all, including the newly arrived ships. "What's happening?" Rodriguez asked, alarmed. Aisha smiled, understanding flowing through her mind thanks to the alien's telepathic link. "They're protecting us," she explained. "And they're offering us a choice." Through the mental connection, Aisha saw flashes of distant stars, strange worlds, and wonders beyond imagination. The aliens were proposing a journey, a grand tour of the galaxy that would allow them to share their knowledge while staying ahead of those who might misuse it. "We can't just leave," Rodriguez protested, but Aisha could see the wonder in his eyes. "Captain," she said gently, "this might be our only chance to prevent a war and learn from the most advanced species we've ever encountered. We have to take it." After a moment of hesitation, Rodriguez nodded. "What do we need to do?" What followed was a flurry of activity. The aliens, using technology far beyond human understanding, merged the human ships with their own organic vessels. The result was a fleet of hybrid ships, each a marvel of biology and engineering. As the newly formed fleet prepared to depart, Aisha felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. She was about to embark on the greatest adventure of her life, but she was also leaving behind everything she had ever known. Her alien friend, whom she had started calling Nova due to its shimmering, star-like scales, sensed her apprehension. It gently placed one of its limbs on her shoulder, sending waves of reassurance through their mental link. With a flash of light that outshone the stars, the fleet jumped into hyperspace, leaving HFY and the pursuing forces far behind. The journey that followed was beyond anything Aisha could have imagined. They visited worlds with oceans of liquid metal, planets where the very rocks were alive, and ancient space stations built by long-lost civilizations. At each stop, Aisha and her team learned more about the aliens' history and technology. They discovered that Nova's species, which they called the Luminaries, had once been the guardians of the galaxy, using their advanced abilities to maintain peace and foster growth among younger races. But their power had made them targets. A great war had forced them into hiding, leading them to choose isolation on HFY to protect both themselves and the dangerous knowledge they possessed. As they traveled, Aisha's bond with Nova grew stronger. She found herself able to communicate with the alien almost as easily as she could with her human companions. They shared thoughts, memories, and even dreams. One day, as they stood on the observation deck of their ship, watching a binary star system dance in the distance, Nova shared a particularly poignant memory with Aisha. She saw through Nova's eyes the fall of their civilization, the pain of loss, and the long years of solitude. Tears streamed down Aisha's face as the memory faded. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. Nova's response flowed through her mind. "Do not be sad. Your arrival has given us hope again. Perhaps it is time for the luminaries to return to the galaxy." Their moment was interrupted by an urgent call from the bridge. Captain Rodriguez's voice was tense as it came over the intercom. "Dr. Khan, we've got a problem. A big one." Aisha and Nova rushed to the bridge, where a holographic display showed a massive fleet of ships approaching. Aisha recognized the insignia. It was the Galactic Science Council's military arm. "They found us," Rodriguez said grimly, "and they're demanding we hand over the aliens and all the technology we've gathered." Aisha felt a surge of determination. She looked at Nova, then at her human companions. In that moment, she knew that their real journey, the fight to protect the luminaries and share their knowledge safely with the galaxy, was only just beginning. As the enemy fleet drew closer, Aisha squared her shoulders. "Well then," she said, her voice steady, "I guess it's time to show them what humans and luminaries can do when we work together." Nova's scales shimmered in agreement, and the hybrid fleet prepared for the battle that would decide the fate of the galaxy. As the enemy fleet loomed closer, Aisha's mind raced. She knew they couldn't win in a direct fight against the Galactic Science Council's military might. They needed another solution. Suddenly, Nova's thoughts flowed into her mind, showing her images of an ancient space station hidden in a nearby nebula. Aisha's eyes widened as she understood. "Captain," she called out to Rodriguez, "set a course for these coordinates. Nova has a plan." The hybrid fleet dove into the swirling gases of the nebula, the pursuing ships hot on their heels. As they emerged on the other side, a massive structure came into view. It was unlike anything Aisha had ever seen. A sprawling web of interconnected spheres and cylinders, each larger than a planet. "What is this place?" Rodriguez asked in awe. Nova's response echoed in Aisha's mind. "It's the Nexus," she translated for the others. "The central hub of the luminaries' ancient network. From here, they once guided and protected the entire galaxy." As their ships docked with the station, Aisha felt a surge of energy. The entire structure was coming to life, responding to the presence of the luminaries after eons of dormancy. They raced through corridors that seemed to shift and change around them, guided by Nova's memories. Finally, they reached a vast central chamber. In its center stood a pillar of pure light, pulsing with unimaginable power. "This is the heart of the Nexus," Aisha explained, her voice filled with wonder. "It contains the sum total of the luminaries' knowledge and technology." Nova approached the pillar, its scales shimmering in resonance with the light. It turned to Aisha, and she felt a question form in her mind. "They're asking for our help," she told the human crew. "The luminaries can reactivate the Nexus, but they need a bridge, a species that can help them reconnect with the galaxy they've been absent from for so long." Rodriguez looked skeptical. "And that species is us, humans." Aisha nodded, understanding dawning on her. "Think about it. We're explorers, adaptable, curious. We've formed bonds with the luminaries when others only saw them as monsters. We can be the bridge they need." Before anyone could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. The Galactic Science Council's fleet had arrived, and they were preparing to attack. Nova's thoughts urgently pressed into Aisha's mind. There was no more time for discussion. They had to act now, or all would be lost. Aisha took a deep breath and stepped towards the pillar of light. "I'll do it," she said. "I'll be the bridge." "Aisha, wait." Rodriguez called out, but it was too late. As Aisha's hand touched the light, she felt a surge of energy course through her body. Her mind expanded, connecting not just with Nova, but with all the luminaries, and through them, to the very fabric of the galaxy itself. In that moment of connection, Aisha saw everything. The true history of the galaxy unfolded before her. She saw the rise of the luminaries, their time as guardians, and the terrible war that had driven them into hiding. She understood the delicate balance they had maintained and the dangers of their knowledge falling into the wrong hands. But more than that, she saw the potential, the incredible advancements that could be made if this knowledge was shared wisely. Cures for diseases, solutions to energy crises, ways to heal damaged worlds. It was all there. As Aisha's consciousness expanded across the galaxy, she sent out a message, not in words, but in pure thought and emotion. She showed everyone, the approaching fleet, the leaders of the Galactic Science Council, and every sentient being in range, the truth about the luminaries and the choice that lay before them all. The attack on the Nexus halted as ship captains and crews alike reeled from the vision. Aisha felt the shock, the wonder, and the fear rippling across the galaxy. Slowly, carefully, she began to withdraw from the heart of the Nexus. As her awareness returned to her body, she found herself supported by Nova on one side and Captain Rodriguez on the other. "Did it work?" she asked weakly. Rodriguez nodded, his face a mix of awe and concern. "I think you just changed the course of galactic history, Dr. Khan." As Aisha looked around the chamber, she saw humans and luminaries working side by side, interfacing with the ancient systems of the Nexus. The station was coming fully to life, ready to serve its purpose once again. But Aisha knew this was just the beginning. They had revealed the truth, but now came the hard part, convincing the galaxy to accept it and to work together towards a brighter future for all species. As if reading her thoughts, Nova sent a wave of reassurance. They had taken the first step together, and whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them united. The days following Aisha's revelation were tense. The Nexus hummed with activity as humans and luminaries worked together to restore its ancient systems. Outside, the Galactic Science Council's fleet remained in a standoff, unsure how to proceed after the vision Aisha had shared. Aisha stood at a large view screen, watching the fleet with Nova by her side. Despite her exhaustion, she knew the real challenge was just beginning. "They're afraid," she said softly. "I can't blame them. The power here, it's overwhelming." Nova's thoughts brushed against her mind, a mix of agreement and determination. They both knew that fear could lead to dangerous decisions. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the station. Captain Rodriguez rushed into the room, his face grim. "We've got a problem," he announced. "A faction of the Council fleet is breaking off. They're charging weapons." Aisha's heart sank. Despite everything they'd shown the galaxy, some still saw the luminaries as a threat to be eliminated. "We need to stop them," Aisha said, her voice firm. "Not just for the luminaries, but for the whole galaxy. If this knowledge is destroyed, we may never get another chance to advance like this." Nova's scales shimmered in agreement. Through their mental link, Aisha saw a plan forming. "You want to use the Nexus's defense systems?" Aisha asked, surprised. "I thought the luminaries were pacifists." Nova's response flowed into her mind. "We protect. Sometimes protection requires action." Aisha nodded, understanding. She turned to Rodriguez. "Captain, we need to buy some time. Can you take our fleet out to distract them?" Rodriguez grinned. "Distraction is my middle name, Doctor. We're on it." As Rodriguez left to coordinate the defense, Aisha and Nova raced to the Nexus's control center. The room was a dizzying array of holographic displays and pulsing light conduits. Other humans and luminaries worked frantically at various stations. Aisha placed her hands on the central console, feeling the familiar surge of energy as she connected with the Nexus. Nova stood beside her, its tentacles interfacing directly with the ancient technology. Through the station's sensors, Aisha could see the battle unfolding. The hybrid fleet, led by Rodriguez, was putting up a valiant fight, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. "We need to end this quickly," Aisha thought, and felt Nova's agreement. Together, they began to activate the Nexus's long-dormant defense systems. Massive energy collectors extended from the station, drawing power from the surrounding nebula. The entire structure hummed with building power. Just as the enemy ships broke through Rodriguez's defensive line, Aisha and Nova unleashed the Nexus' power. But it wasn't a weapon they fired. Instead, a wave of pure energy washed over the battlefield. Where it touched, ships stopped in their tracks, weapons powered down, and communication channels fell silent. Aisha opened a channel to all ships. "This is Dr. Aisha Khan. What you just experienced is a fraction of the Luminary's power. We could have destroyed you, but that's not our purpose. We're here to protect and advance all life in the galaxy." She paused, letting her words sink in. "I'm inviting representatives from all your ships to come aboard the Nexus. See for yourselves what we're offering. This is a chance for understanding, not conflict." For a tense moment, there was no response. Then, slowly, ships from both sides began to move towards the Nexus's docking base. As the first representatives arrived, Aisha felt a wave of relief wash over her. She turned to Nova, a tired smile on her face. "We did it," she said. "We've got a chance now." Nova's response was warm in her mind. "We have all done it. Humans and luminaries, together." Aisha nodded, looking around at the mixed crew of humans and luminaries working in harmony. It was just the beginning, she knew. There would be challenges ahead, suspicions to overcome, and hard work to be done. But as she watched the representatives from across the galaxy file into the Nexus, hope blossomed in her chest. They had taken the first step towards a new era of cooperation and advancement. The deadliest predators in the galaxy had become its greatest hope for peace, and humanity, with its adaptability and courage, had proven to be the perfect bridge between worlds. As Aisha prepared to greet the arriving delegates, she couldn't help but smile. The future of the galaxy was uncertain, but for the first time in millennia, it was full of limitless possibilities. 5 years had passed since the dramatic standoff at the Nexus. Dr. Aisha Khan stood at the observation deck of the newly constructed Galactic Unity Station, her eyes taking in the breathtaking view of ships from dozens of species coming and going peacefully. Nova, her luminary friend, floated beside her. Its scales shimmered with contentment as it too observed the fruits of their shared labor. "I still can't believe how far we've come," Aisha said softly. Nova's response flowed into her mind. The journey of 1,000 light years begins with a single step, or in our case, a single handshake between supposed predator and prey. Aisha chuckled at Nova's attempt at human humor. The bond between them had only grown stronger over the years, a living symbol of the cooperation that now defined galactic society. A young aide approached them, slightly nervous in the presence of a luminary. "Dr. Khan, the council is ready for your address." Aisha nodded, taking a deep breath. Even after all this time, addressing the Galactic Unity Council, the successor to the old Science Council, still made her nervous. As she entered the Grand Chamber, representatives from hundreds of worlds fell silent. Humans sat next to species that, just a few years ago, would have been mortal enemies. And there, in a place of honor, were the luminaries, no longer hidden or feared. Aisha took her place at the podium, Nova floating supportively by her side. "Distinguished representatives," she began, her voice clear and strong. 5 years ago, we stood on the brink of a war that could have torn our galaxy apart. Today, we stand united, not just in peace, but in a shared vision for our future. She gestured to the holographic displays around the chamber, showcasing the achievements of the past 5 years. Thanks to the luminaries' knowledge and the cooperative efforts of all our species, we've made unprecedented advancements. We've cured diseases that once plagued entire systems. We've developed clean energy sources that have ended resource wars on countless worlds. We've even begun to heal planets long thought dead. Murmurs of approval rippled through the chamber. Aisha continued, her passion evident in every word. But our greatest achievement isn't measured in technological advancements or scientific breakthroughs. It's measured in understanding. In the bridges we've built between cultures that once saw each other as alien and frightening. She looked at Nova, feeling a wave of affection from her friend. The luminaries were once seen as the deadliest predators in the galaxy. Now, they're our teachers, our protectors, our friends, and humanity. We were once a young, brash species on the galactic stage. Now, we're proud to serve as a bridge between worlds. Aisha's voice softened as she came to the heart of her message. Yet our work is far from over. There are still worlds suffering from conflict, species hesitant to join our coalition. And beyond our galaxy, there are new frontiers waiting to be explored. New challenges that will require all of our collective wisdom and strength. She straightened, her eyes shining with determination. That's why today, I'm proposing the formation of the Galactic Exploration and Peacekeeping Force, a joint effort, combining the strengths of all our species, with the luminaries' ancient knowledge, humanity's adaptability, and the unique skills each of you bring. We can face any challenge the universe throws our way. The chamber erupted in applause. Even species known for their stoicism were visibly moved. As Aisha stepped down from the podium, she was swarmed by representatives eager to pledge their support. In the midst of the excitement, she felt a gentle touch on her shoulder. It was Captain Rodriguez, now Admiral of the human fleet. Not bad for a xenobiologist who once couldn't even keep her plants alive, he said with a grin. Aisha laughed, remembering the nervous scientist she'd been just a few years ago. We've all come a long way, haven't we? As the day wound down, Aisha found herself back at the observation deck, Nova by her side. The stars seemed brighter somehow, full of promise. Ready for our next adventure? She asked her friend. Nova's scales rippled with excitement. Always, came the reply in her mind. Aisha smiled, looking out at the vast expanse of space. The galaxy that had once seemed so dangerous and unpredictable now felt like home. And the being beside her, once feared as the deadliest predator, was now her closest friend. As ships prepared for the first mission of the new Galactic Exploration and Peacekeeping Force, Aisha felt a sense of limitless possibility. Whatever the universe held in store, they would face it together. Humans, luminaries, and all the species of the galaxy, united in their shared journey towards a brighter future. The end was just the beginning.